All right, now this morning we're going to take just a little bit of time and we're going to examine one of the verses in the exercise because I think we need practice doing something. And what we need by way of practice is that we need to understand how to translate a Greek sentence. Now, I've taken some things possibly too much for granted as I've given you the exercises and asked you to do them. And possibly you've run up against some problems that have given you fits and we've just bypassed it. Now, I don't know how to get an explanation across whereby we can go ahead and do your lessons at the same time. So we're going to take this particular sentence as far as page 109 is concerned, and you are going to tell me all about it. You're going to help me do it. We're going to get it. I haven't even looked at it beforehand here, whereby I can just lower the boom on you. You're going to learn how to do it. You're going to give me every minute detail of this sentence because we want to build on what we have learned. All right, now then, let's take a look and make sure that it is copied right on the board. Now, you look at it as I read it. Tu aklou abeiltantes ha doulos erkatai eis ton oikon tu poimenos. Is it copied right? I believe so. Tu aklou abeiltantes ha doulos erkatai eis ton oikon tu poimenos. Well, as I just look at that at this particular juncture, it is rather a simple sentence. Now then, Luke, I want you to go to the board. I want you to go to the board. I'm going to sit off here at the side, and you're on candid camera.
Do I need my lexicon?
All right, now then, I want you above that line of Greek. I want you to identify the case for tu aklou. What case is tu aklou?
Genitive?
Genitive. All right, put above that genitive. G-E-N is good enough. All right. Now then, I want you to tell me the case of apelthontos.
Aorist participle?
No, the case. Not the tense, but the case. Because you know a participle has both.
Genitive?
All right, put genitive above it. All right, now then, come to the next line. You got ha doulos. Now you know that the ha is the article with the doulos, isn't that right? Okay, now give me that case.
Nominative?
Okay, put nominative above that. Okay, now what is erkatai? Is erkatai a noun or a verb?
It's a verb.
It's a verb. All right, come on over to ace. What is ace? What kind of a word is it, or what part of speech is it?
Preposition?
It's a preposition. So just put P-R-E-P above that. That's all right. Now then, come on down to the last line. Ton oikon. Now you know ton is the article to oikon, don't you? It agrees. Okay, now what case do we have there?
Accusative?
Accusative case. Okay, put accusative over there. All right, now come on over to the next. And you know that tu is the article with poimenos. Now, what case do you have there?
Genitive?
Genitive. Okay, put genitive over that. All right, now you may be seated.
Oh, I hate
All right. Now then, Wes, I want you to come to the board. And I want to ask you some questions. Now then, since tu aklou is a genitive and apelthontos is a genitive, what part of speech is tu aklou? What is to oclu? What part of speech? Is it a noun? Is it a verb? Is it a preposition, adjective, or what? What is to oclu?
It'd be a noun.
Be a noun. Okay, put a noun above that. All right, now then. Op eilthontos. What part of speech is that?
It's a participle.
That's a participle, isn't it? Okay, put PTCP there. So we have a genitive noun and a genitive participle. All right, now what part of speech is ha doulos?
It's a noun too.
It's a noun. Okay, put a noun. Okay, now he told us that erkatai was a verb, so put just a V above that. Now then, when you come to a preposition ace, the preposition ace accompanies what kind of case in the Greek always?
Genitive?
No.
Ablative.
No.
I'm guessing this.
Case ace always accompanies what? Ace always accompanies what case in the Greek?
I want to guess. It means into, so a locative?
No. Now look at your case right there on the board.
Accusative.
That's right. You see, ace, and now I'm glad you did this, not just so that you made mistakes, but to zero in on something, and that is this. You must remember your prepositions by virtue of the cases that they always go with. And case always goes with the accusative case. Therefore, you can at this point in time, as far as your Greek learning is concerned, can always say that the noun pronoun or anything which follows ace is always the object of the preposition, because it's showing you the direction, isn't it? Ace is into, and sometimes you're going to find it translated as in as well as into. It's translated as unto several times, and you're going to find other meanings for it, but that is in your second year Greek when you get into syntax, how it is used and function. All right, now, since it is a preposition that is always used with the accusative, now what part of speech is ton oikon?
Would be the object, noun.
It's a noun. Okay, when I talk about part of speech, you know, I'm not talking about case or anything. I'm just exactly identify for me that particular word. So you have to put a noun there. Now then, what part of speech is to poimenos? It's one of your vocabulary words.
It's a noun.
It's a noun. It's a noun. Now the reason he knew that that was in the genitive case is because you got a dead giveaway. What is the dead giveaway?
The article.
The article. Now this happens to be what kind of a declension noun?
It's a third declension.
Third declension noun. And sometimes we have a real problem identifying a third declension noun. But if you've got the article like you have there, man, you got a dead giveaway. Do you see that? All of you see that? Now then, as I look at that, suppose I didn't know that word and I didn't have the article. Man, what am I up against? I know that that happens to be, at this particular juncture, an ending for what?
For a nominative.
Well, yeah, but what part of speech of a word am I looking for? A participle.
Okay.
See, it's from there on, I know I've got an ending that looks like a participle. But oh man, wait a minute here now. It's not a participle. Or is it a participle? Well, I've got two there that's going to guarantee me that it is the genitive case. Isn't that right? All of you see that? Now then, suppose I don't know what that word is. Well, I look at it, and I look at that thing. Menos, is that the ending of a participle? Well, if it's an ending of a participle, I've only got three letters there that give me the stem. Poi. Poi, 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 poi. Well, what is poi? Well, what do? I go to my lexicon then in the back of my book. That's what I'm going to have to do if I'm going to find out. And I come along here with poi, 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 poi. And I look down here, and boy, I see two particular words that's got poi in it. And that one word is poieo, which means I do or I make. Well, I know the thing isn't a verb then, so, man, that's out, isn't it? And then I got another word there. It says poimein, and the genitive of that thing is poimenos. So I know I've got a noun. So I'll put a noun down there again. Now, I may have gone a long way around about this, but I'm just trying to anticipate some of the problems that you're having in trying to translate that thing. All right, I've got a genitive noun and a genitive participle, a nominative noun, and I've got a verb, and I've got a preposition that goes with the accusative noun, and I've got another genitive noun. Well, I take a look at this thing, and I've learned something by virtue of a lesson, haven't I? That when I find a noun in the genitive and I find a participle in the genitive, well, I get very suspicious about something, don't I? Didn't I just learn in this last lesson that if you have a noun and you have a participle in the genitive case, grammatically independent of the rest of the sentence, I've probably got a genitive absolute, haven't I? All right, now then, how do I translate that to aclu op eo fontes? How do I translate it?
Oh, me?
Yeah, go ahead and translate it. Well, see if you can translate it.
I had problems now. I used the wrong vocabulary word for that.
What did you use?
I thought it was, the root was a death. Guy died.
Uh-huh. And what does it come from?
Well, I thought it was apathanosco. I wasn't really looking at it. I didn't see the lambda.
Yeah.
I just pointed it out. I didn't see the lambda in there.
Yeah, well, that's good. All right. Well, you didn't get too much death out of that then, did you? So what does it come from?
I don't know. You just pointed out now. That's where it comes from.
All right. Luke, do you know what it comes from?
Althane?
No?
No?
Well, yeah, that part of it, all right, but...
Right, so it's coming out, coming from?
Well, wait a minute now. You haven't told me what it comes from yet.
Althane comes from the aorist. The second aorist.
Yeah?
Second aorist.
Second aorist.
Active.
Yeah, but it's a second aorist of
erkomai.
Erkomai. Yeah, erkomai. Second aorist of erkomai, and the active aorist of erkomai is elphone. But I've got op there, so I know it comes from op erkomai. Isn't that right? Op erkomai. Op erkomai. Well, what have I got there? Can you parse that participle for me? Right there now.
Parse it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's singular, genitive, masculine, present,
No, we're not present. Second aorist.
second aorist, okay.
Second aorist
Participle,
participle of
apathanesco.
No.
Up at Ericomai?
Apericomai. Apericomai. Put apericomai there now. Would you do that? Okay, there's apericomai. No, there you are, right there. And it means, what? To go away, doesn't it? That particular word there, I go away. Now then we know we've got an aorist participle because there's a change in the stem, isn't it? You don't see any rho and you don't see any key there, do you? You've got a lambda and you've got a theta. Therefore, I know I've got an aorist stem because an aorist changes stem, doesn't it? Sure I do know that. All right, now then, what is the meaning for tu aklu?
Tu aklu is of the crowd.
All right, of the crowd. And your genitive is elphantos. How would you translate it there?
Peter, I didn't know that.
Now, I want you to stay right there because you did something that threw you off right at the beginning. How did you translate tu aklu?
Of the crowd.
Of the crowd. What's wrong with that?
It could be just the crowd.
Why?
Well, because it's the starting of a sentence.
No.
It's in a genitive absolute.
Genitive absolute.
Oh.
You got it? You got it? If it's a genitive absolute, eh? You don't translate it as a genitive. Got it? So, the crowd. Now then, up erkomai, from making it up elphantos, genitive participle, agreeing to this, you got a genitive absolute. The crowd then, make that a participle.
They were going.
Now make it aorist.
They went. No, they. See, that's one thing, my ears.
All right. Now then, this is what we've got to get ironed out. Because we'll be at sea unless we learn how to do it. The crowd having left, or the crowd having gone away. When the crowd went away, after the crowd went away. See? You've got to get the aoristic punctiliar idea in the translation. The crowd having gone away, after the crowd went away, when the crowd went away. Now then, you see, that is totally independent now of the rest of this sentence. See? All right, now, what is this?
Servant
The servant. Case.
is nominative
Nominative. How is it acting?
as a subject.
Subject to what?
The verb.
What verb?
Erketa.
Erkata. Parse that verb for me.
It's etai, so it's third person singular of
Give me your tense now.
it's easier on paper.
It's easier on paper. Yeah,
This
so
way,
we got
this
it
way,
flustered.
this way.
This is good. Look at that. Look at that word up there.
Of
Third person singular. Present. Middle. Indicative. Third person singular. Why third person?
well, because it's etai.
Yeah, in form, yeah, but in function.
Well, in function because it's he
Has to agree
with the subject.
with the subject in number, which is third person singular. The crowd, it. See? The crowd, it. Third person singular. So you could actually got a double subject there, haven't you? You got a subject expressed and you got a subject inherent in the verb. Now then, since this is a deponent verb, we translate it, we parsed it, third person singular, present, middle, indicative. You translate by form. I'm sorry. You parse by form. You translate it as an active because it's a deponent verb. Okay? The crowd, or I'm sorry, the servants, the servant enters into
the house of the shepherd.
The shepherd. Okay, now just a minute. Let me go back here. Now, why isn't that the subject?
Because it's accusative.
Accusative. It's objective case following ace. This is nominative, the subject of the verb. Therefore, and incidentally, it wouldn't make any difference where that occurred in the sentence. Wouldn't make any difference at all. Because, you know, Greek is terrifically, it's just like going down to the South Sea Islands and treasure hunting. You ever dream of that? Well, it's
Not
a
in
dream, not in But Greek is far more interesting because you see, they might take that subject and put it down here at this end and take this prepositional phrase and put it up there in front. But what you have to do, you have to unscramble it then and bring order out of chaos as far as the English mind is concerned. You see, we're very poor. We're English and they're Greeks. And they understand the things perfectly well. But for us to try to put an English head into a Greek head, and that's a real problem. And that's a transplant they haven't been able to make just yet. And I'd like to do that. I'd like to get some little old Greek fellow that I didn't like, and I said, I want your brain. And put it, of course, I wouldn't want to give him my brain, but I just want to add it to mine, see. But that's probably technology in the future. However, here is your genitive absolute. Here is your major sentence. This is grammatically independent of the rest of the sentence. You know, we don't have to have that to have this, do we? The servant goes into the house of the shepherd. Now this, too, tells me that it's describing the kind of house. Or whose house? The shepherd's house. All right? Now then, thank you, Wes. Question, okay?
Yes. I was just wondering, the servant is a subject there.
The servant is the subject of this sentence.
Is there a difference between that subject and the crowd being a noun? It's the
Well,
same
yeah,
thing?
sure.
There's
Absolutely.
a difference?
Yeah, because this is the genitive absolute and this is the subject of the verb. I lost you.
Yeah.
Lost you
Like
somewhere.
I understand about the genitive absolute, but so there is a difference between a noun and a subject.
Well,
Oh.
wait a minute. A noun may function as a subject. A noun may function as an object. A noun may function as description. A noun may function as a
Right.
part of a genitive absolute.
Right. No problem.
Okay?
I got her now.
You
Right.
got it now.
Noun is just the name of the word.
Noun is a part of speech.
Right.
The subject, object, is function.
Right. Okay.
Now then, if you can keep form and function separate, well, it'll be just real fine.
Right.
All right, well, we've used up a whole class session just by virtue of that one particular sentence, but I felt as though that you must get to the place where you see. Now, does that help you at all with reference to the function of your participle and how to do it? If you can get your definition down? Now, it's a matter of practice, and we're going to practice. We're going to have lots of practice. All right, fine thing. That'll call that quits for today.
I'm fine.
with your books open to page 110. We're ready for lesson number 33. Now in lesson number 33 and lesson number 34, you have two different kinds of pronouns. Now in this particular lesson, you're introduced to the relative pronoun, whereas in lesson 34, you're introduced to the interrogative and indefinite pronouns. Now, also in lesson number 33, you have the continuation of the third declension noun. Now there are many, many variations with reference to the third declension noun, and we suggest that you get each lesson down just as well as you possibly can, and then practice is going to be the thing which will crystallize this third declension, and it'll take a lot of practice. Now, it gives you the declension of pater and aner, both father and man. Now, I want to say something to you that you are probably wondering about at this juncture. When you come to the word man, have you had another Greek word for man?
Anthropos?
Anthropos. One of the first words that we learned as far as our second declension is a second declension noun. Now aner is a third declension. Now the difference between these two Greek words basically is simply this. Anthropos looks at man from a generic point of view, often with reference to mankind. Now there's another word that is used in that connection, but you haven't been introduced to it yet. But anthropos can just speak about man, not in the masculine manner at all, but he's speaking about man inhabits the earth. See, that's speaking about the mankind, isn't it? Now then, also anthropos can refer to the different genders. You're going to have both masculine and feminine when it comes to making a distinction. Whereas aner is the particular word that would emphasize the masculine aspect of mankind. Now aner, you will see, is the third declension, with andros being genitive. Now this word is also translated and used as husband. As husband. And you'll want to remember that. I'd put that out as one of the definitions if I were you, because over and over again in your Greek New Testament, now I don't know whether he gives you that. Does he give you that definition back in the lexicon? Well, over and over again in the Greek New Testament, you are going to discover that aner is the word for husband. All right? Now then, when it comes to the explanation for the third declension, he does a very, very good job just by virtue of what he states here. And I believe at this juncture you should be able to just go ahead and read the observations and read the changes and understand them, because we've taken quite a lot of time up to this point trying to get you acquainted with what the book has to say. And so periodically I'm just going to leave it up to you to go ahead and to study out what he says. Now if you have questions with reference to this, I want you to bring them up the following lesson. But now on paragraph 271, he introduces you to that which I believe we should take a little time with by way of explanation, and that is what is called the relative pronoun. Now, be sure you understand what the relative pronoun is by translation. Who, which, that, or what. Now already you're going to see that you've got the little word that, and you've had hati, haven't you? You've had hati as a definition for, that giving you the definition for hati. Well, when you have hati, you're dealing with a conjunction. But when you have a pronoun such as has, he, or ha, you are not looking at it from a conjunction point of view, but from a relative pronoun. I would like for you to sort of make those distinctions if at all possible. Now in paragraph 271, as we've mentioned, he gives you the declension for the relative pronoun. Has, who, ho, han, hoi, hon, hois, whos. Feminine, he, heis, he, he, hi, hon, heis, has. Neuter, ha, who, ho, ha. Ha, hon, hois, ha. Now then, you're going to get mixed up about something. Now, take a look at the board. What is that?
Articles.
That's the article. What is this?
Relative pronoun.
Relative pronouns. Now then, I put on the final exam 1 year the question or the exercise, give me the declension of the article, give me the declension of the relative pronoun. And I was surprised because I got just a mixed up bag of chips. Ha is your masculine article. What is the difference between these two? Well, in one case, you've got the sigma. This is different here. But what's the difference between the relative neuter pronoun and the masculine article? What's the difference?
The accent.
It's the accent. The accent. Article doesn't have accent. Relative pronoun has accent. You remember that? Well, that's the thing to do, is to remember it, if all possible. And you just have to remember it. Because you're going to want to make has here a masculine article sometime, isn't that right? Or you're going to want to make ha a masculine article. And you're going to want to make that sometimes a relative pronoun. Well, the amazing thing about it is, as you're going to learn later on, articles can be translated as relatives. Just to make things interesting for you, right? But at this point, remember that the difference between your relative and your article is that the relative has the accent. Now, you've already learned your relative, haven't you, since you've learned the accent pretty well of the second declension and the first declension. Now I believe there's a misprint in your book. Under the locative, now then make that a sigma, will you? Heis, heis, heis. Why in the world that they've made it a zeta, I don't know. But I just can't, I can't give you the answer for that. There may be some reason, but I'm at sea, so we'll just make things uniform as far as the form is concerned. All right, now then, I want to read and give you some explanation. It'll be noticed that this pronoun is declined in the first and second declensions. Observe that every form has the rough breathing and an accent. The relative pronoun generally agrees with its antecedent in gender and number. What's an antecedent?
That falls after.
No, antecedent is that which comes before. Or did you say that?
No, I said after.
After. The antecedent, that which comes before, or a word that it refers to previously. But it may have its own case in its clause, or it may be attracted to the case of its antecedent. Well, what have we said? We don't know, do we? Well, we're going to learn. But it may have its own case in its clause. A relative pronoun can have its own case, whether it's nominative or etc., in its own clause, or it may have a changed form and may be attracted or agree to the case of its antecedent or the word that it refers to previously. Now then he's going to give us an example of what he has to say, what he has just said. Now then, notice in this particular sentence. Again, I want you to take your pencil or pen, whatever you want to do at this juncture, just to sort of help us. And in this first example, you see to lago, and then you see han. Okay, between lago and han, draw a little straight line, will you? Because you've got a division in this particular sentence that illustrates the point which he has just said. All right, now as you look at the Greek, you find ha anthropos is masculine nominative. Then you find epistuen is the verb. Now epistuen is the imperfect of it, of pistuo, isn't it? Therefore, the subject of epistuen is ha anthropos. The man was believing in the word, or the man was believing the word. See? Now then, you have the relative pronoun han, which Jesus spoke to him, or that Jesus spoke to him. And I really would much rather you would use which there than that, because hati, you're going to get mixed up with hati periodically. The man was believing the word which Jesus spoke to him. Now, the little word han. The little word han, what does it refer to?
The word?
It refers to to lago, doesn't it? Therefore, it is taking its gender from the antecedent lago. Do you see that? You see that, Luke? You don't see it. No, you don't see it. Well, let me put something on the board here then, and we'll see if we can. Oh yes,
Hey, you bet.
you see that?
You bet. But we can go over it again.
To
Let me get it over here.
to lago. Isn't that what we've got there? Whoops, no, we got there. Now, han. And I think that's grave. All right. Now, the previous part of that, the man was believing the word. The word which Jesus spoke to him. All right, now then, the antecedent of han is lago. See, that's the antecedent. Now then, this is one case and that's another case. Now then, it takes its case by virtue of its use in its own clause, which Jesus spoke to him. See, the relative is part of the following clause, isn't it? Understand that? The man was believing the word. That's one clause. Now then, you have a relative clause which follows, which Jesus spoke to him. So, it takes its case by virtue of its use in its own clause. Okay, what is that case?
Accusative?
Accusative. Why is it accusative?
Because it's the object of what tologo was.
No, not the object of tolago, but it's the object of a pen. Jesus spoke which to him. See that? Just turn it around there. Okay. The man was believing the word. Was believing the word, which Jesus spoke to him. Now the antecedent of which is logo. But its use in its own clause, see, is object of the verb. Jesus spoke which to him. You see that? You got it?
So
Okay, question.
Therefore, its case is determined by how it's used in the clause,
Right.
but its gender is due to its antecedent.
You're right.
Oh.
That's right. Okay? You got that? Any problem? All right, now then, let's notice now then, in the next exercise there, example, well, that's about the same. Let's see what he does. The best one is the third one there. You are abiding in him, who is the Savior of the world. All right, now then, you are abiding. Where's your subject of menete, Luke?
You?
Where is it found?
It's found at the end of it. Ete?
All right, it's found in the verb, isn't it?
Right.
It's the personal ending of the verb, okay? Right. You are abiding in auto, who is the Savior of the world. All right, now then, what gender is hos? What gender is hos?
Masculine.
Masculine. Why is it masculine?
Because its antecedent is masculine.
Because its antecedent is auto. And you know that is masculine. Therefore, hos is masculine. All right, now then, what case is hos?
Nominative?
Now, why is it nominative? Why is it nominative?
It's the subject of the verb.
It's the subject of the verb estin, who is the Savior of the world. Now, what case is ha soter?
Nominative.
Nominative. Why is it nominative?
It's predicate nominative.
It's predicate nominative because you've got estin. See? Man alive, get a hold of the amies. Man, just jump a straddle of those amies, you see? Who is the Savior of the world? All right? Now that isn't too difficult, is it? But you have to remember, and I told you that there was one other word that takes a predicate nominative. Do you remember that one?
Yep.
Which one was that?
Genomai.
Genomai. Genomai. All right. I don't care how many times you have to write it down, boys. Remember it, get it down, because it's going to save you a lot of gray hairs. And you don't want to start turning gray this early in life. You just want to wait until later on in life that you get more gray hairs. All right, here we go now. Now that is showing you these two illustrations, which are the two easiest ones, and you should refer back to them when you have your problems concerning this business of the relative. these two illustrations are just simply showing you the antecedent to the relative pronoun and the case of the relative pronoun as is used in its own clause. Okay? Understand that? Now then, let's go to paragraph number 273, because he's going to show you how this thing can change a little bit. Usually the attraction of the relative to the case of the antecedent is from the accusative, in which it naturally would be in its own clause, to some other oblique case. Now, what are the oblique cases? Remember what the oblique cases were?
Everything but the nominative.
Everything but the nominative. Everything but the nominative. Now then, you may forget it again, but once you have your problems with it, why, you'll wish that you had remembered it. Now, in this particular illustration, which we have before us here, you probably, that's exactly right, you have not had this vocabulary word, so this is part of the vocabulary that you should remember. Menemon uo means to remember. Remember. Remember the word which I spoke to you, or which I said to you. Now again, he's using the word that, and I just wish that you would scratch that out as far as your pencil is concerned and make it a relative instead of confusing us with the conjunction as well as the demonstrative pronoun that. Okay, here we go. You remember the word which I said to you. Now then, you see, you might put a little vertical line behind lagu and before who, because there is the division between the two clauses. You remember the word which I spoke to you. Now, what gender is who? What gender is who?
Genitive?
Gender.
Could be masculine or neuter.
Masculine or neuter. Now then, do you remember the Greek word lagu in the nominative?
Oh, it's logos.
Logos. Therefore you know it's a masculine. Okay? So you have a masculine noun. All right. The gender of who is masculine then. Now what case is who?
Genitive ablative.
Genitive or ablative. Now then, you know it is genitive because as you look down in your footnote, the little Greek verb remember takes the genitive in the object. Now, that's something that, again, you might get thrown with, but just remember that. Remember the word which I spoke to you. Now then, what case should who be? How is it used in its own clause? How is it used?
The accusative, right?
It should be accusative. Why?
Because of the verb?
Because it's the object of the verb I said. Isn't that right?
I'm learning.
I said what? I said which. So let's just put lagu here. Lagu, as he has it here, and put who here. Isn't that what we have? Yes. Now then, this is the antecedent. That's the antecedent of who. Therefore, it is masculine in gender. Now then, in its own clause, and I like to draw that line there, in its own clause, I said which. Okay, it should be then Han, as far as its function, because it is the direct object of the verb. Understand? But here is the case, and it's not always attractive. It isn't always attractive because we've got illustrations up here that, for instance, the first one there, the man was believing the word which Jesus said to him. Well, you've got the accusative up there, haven't you? It hasn't been attracted to lago by virtue of case, has it? No, it's Han. It's used as the very, its case is according to its use in its own clause. But in this illustration, the who should be Han. But because it is attracted to lagu, therefore Han becomes who. Understand that? Yes. Question.
If you were to do from English to Greek, how would you know when to be attractive and when it shouldn't be attractive?
Well, that would be a little hard for you to do, you see, as far as attraction is concerned, because you are not going to be called upon to do that except in your exercises here, and it would be best for you to just hold to the matter of not attraction unless you want some reason for it.
If you knew the verb that attracted it.
Well, no, it's not attracted by virtue of verbs. No, because it's attracted by virtue of the antecedent, which has to be a noun.
That's what I meant, yeah.
Now then, I want you to see this, though. Do you have it down? Why it is not Han, but it's who. Again, it takes its gender from its antecedent. It takes its case by virtue of its use in its own clause. But if it is not the case that should be by virtue of its use, but is the case of the antecedent, then you know you have what's called direct attraction. That's direct. You're directly attracted to its antecedent. Okay? Well, now that's what he has just said in the explanation under 273. Here, who has been attracted to the case of lago. In its own clause, it naturally would be in the accused because it's the object of the verb. All right, now, paragraph 274. Often the relative has no antecedent expressed. So you have to decide what would be the antecedent of that relative. Not knowing what he says, they go away. Not knowing what he says, they go away. Well, he says what? Not knowing the words, say, what he says. Not knowing the words, what he says. All right, the next one here. He who receives me receives you. The one who receives me, he receives you. Well, you will get on to those. Now, listen, our time is already gone. So I want you to do, for tomorrow, all of the exercises, please. The exercise is 275, and both the Greek and the English to the Greek. And be responsible for your vocabulary of lesson number 34. All right? lesson number 34. Be responsible for your vocabulary of that particular lesson, and we'll do the lesson 34 tomorrow, which is the third declension, along with the interrogative indefinite pronoun, because I think that you must get a hold of this relative in good hand. Okay? Now, lesson 34 is a continuation of the third declension, page 113. Now, you have by this time discovered that there are a number of third declension nouns that have declensions in different manners. So, the only thing that I can tell you, again, with the third declension, is that you're going to just simply have to get acquainted with the various classes of nouns that are third declension and be able to recognize them in your translation. And again, one of the big helps is going to be getting a hold of the article. Now, this third declension, which you have as a continuation of page 113, deals with nouns of the third declension that have their genitives in the eos. Now, this is sort of a going away from a rule, I believe, when it comes to the matter of knowing your genitive to get your nominative. The eos verbs, the eos nouns seem to be a peculiar breed all their own. Now, in the observation, I want to call one thing to your attention, and you can read the rest very easily yourself. Notice in the middle of paragraph 278 where it says, note the apparent exception to the rule of the accent, that the accent cannot stand on the antepenult when the ultim is long. Now then, notice, if you will, in the genitive, both the genitive singular and the genitive plural, you have the P, the omicron, the lambda, the epsilon, the omega, and the sigma. You there? Now, the omega is long, isn't it? But where's your accent? Your accent is on the antepenult. So just call your attention to that particular exception when it comes to the matter of the accent of the third declension. And then he gives you the explanation for this particular word, polis. It's very interesting to observe that these eos nouns are pretty well, as far as your vocabulary, all feminine. Now, it's rather significant that when you come to one of the problem passages in your Greek New Testament, such as Jude, verse 6 and 7, that you have a problem there concerning an interpretation. An interpretation of that passage is strictly according to grammatical rules, dealing with the angels which kept not their first state and so forth, but cohabited with different flesh. They are reserved in chains of darkness unto the great day. And then he goes on to discuss the matter of, of the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. in like manner to these. Now that particular demonstrative pronoun is masculine, and it cannot refer to the feminine noun, the cities, Polis, see? And the only antecedent which corresponds with that masculine gender goes all the way back up to the angels, angeloi, angelos, and it's angeloi in the noun. So therefore, the very word that you have in your vocabulary right here, a third declension noun, a feminine noun, is a key to the proper interpretation of Jude verse 6 and 7, whether we want to accept an interpretation or not, or whether we want to accept the meaning of that passage dealing with the matter that angels cohabited with different flesh. And so no way can you make Jude 6 and 7 refer to the inhabitants of the cities when it refers to in like manner to these, referring back to the angels. So it's a very interesting grammatical principle that you're learning right here in your first year Greek. Now, the reason I sort of emphasize that is because I was teaching a Bible class here in the city. And I had a number of men, very fine men. I love them much in the Lord. But to show you how prejudiced a person can get by virtue of their own interpretation, after that class, I never saw those men again. And one was an elder, another was a leader in another ministry, and I heard, one very caustically stated this to me, he said, "Well, I thought we were going to learn something tonight." Well, that shows you how prejudiced a person can get against even biblical grammatical rules. And so they just reject principles of grammar according to their own prejudice. That's a sad, sad state to get into. All right, now then, on page 115, you're dealing with this pronoun, which is called the interrogative pronoun and the indefinite pronoun. Now, what do we mean by interrogative? What does the term interrogative mean to you? Sometimes we use words and we don't know what we're talking about. All right, tell me.
A question?
All right, it is a word that is used, as far as this pronoun is concerned, to introduce a question. Why or what? Or who? Now, he gives you the declension of the interrogative pronoun, tis and te. Please observe that the masculine and feminine of tis are precisely the same in form. Now one is going to say, well, how am I going to be able to tell the difference? The only way you're going to be able to tell the difference is from context. Now then, the neuter follows the neuter declension, very, very simple. Now, well, let's just read this, because we probably should note some of these things that he points out. Note that the pronoun is declined in the third declension. The masculine and feminine declensions are alike. The neuter differs from the masculine and the feminine only in the nominative and accusative. See that? Always remember that the nominative and accusative of a noun in the neuter are the same. So it's declined in the third declension. The interrogative pronoun has the acute accent on the first syllable. It never, never, never changes to a grade. It was one of the secrets how you are going to tell the difference between an interrogative pronoun and an indefinite pronoun. The interrogative pronoun always maintains an acute accent throughout the declension. Now then, the declension of the indefinite pronoun, tis and te. Observe, right off the bat here, that the vocabulary form tis and te have the grave accent. Now, I don't know whether they put the grave on the...
No.
They didn't even put it on. Now then, here's a reason for it. They're going to tell you in just a little bit. The reason for it is it's an enclitic, and it can lose it. So when you do have the accent on the nominative, that it is grave, see? Now let's notice what he has to say. As far as forms are concerned, there isn't any difference in form. Note that the indefinite pronoun is declined like the interrogative, except that the accent is placed on the ultima because it is an enclitic, and loses or retains its accent according to the principles given in paragraph 138. Go back and review your rules. Go back and review your rules of the enclitic in paragraph 138. Now he states, I'm going to show you how to use the interrogative and the indefinite pronouns. So here are a number of examples. Examine careful the following examples of the use of the interrogative pronoun. All right, let's look at it. Su tis a. Who art thou? Now we would want to say, who are you? That's the way we would say it today in our type of English. Who are you? Now you see, this is an interrogative. See the accent? It is an acute accent, isn't it? Then you have the second person singular of the verb any as a. Who are you? Okay?
Dr. Clark?
Yes.
I was just wondering, would it matter, just generally, what order you put that in? Could you have a to su? Wouldn't matter?
Well, tis is usually first. Tis is usually going to be first.
Before the verb?
Yeah. You'll notice he uses that all the way through. That is when he's going to make a point of tis here. Now then, the next one. What pay or what reward do you have? That's what we would say. What pay have you? What reward have you? Now then, you see, Tina agrees in case with Miss Thumb because it's an acting and adjective. You have what pay, or what pay have you? Right? Now, tis estin ha anthropos hutas. Excuse me. Who is this man? Okay, you got your interrogative tis. What case is ha anthropos?
Nominative,
Why?
article, and Amy,
Therefore, it's what kind of a nominative?
predicate nominative.
Predicate nominative. Who is this man? Okay, what part of speech is hutas?
It's a pronoun.
It's a pronoun. What kind?
Third person pronoun? No.
No. Remember your demonstratives?
Oh yeah, right.
Demonstrative pronouns, this or that or these and those. Okay. Here you have one of the immediate demonstratives. Who is this man? All right, now. Number 4. Tina. Whom are you seeking? That's the question. Whom are you seeking? Therefore, it's interrogative. Number 5. What shall I do? What shall I do? Now then, I shall do what, or what shall I do, And now then, here is an illustration of the neuter, because it's not talking about any particular gender that would make it otherwise. Okay? Number 6. You know who the man is. You know who is the man. Who is the man? Now you know who is the man. So, tis is an interrogative. Now note, the interrogative tis is used as a substantive in 1, 3, and 4, as an adjective in 2. It is used in both direct and indirect questions, and number 6 is the indirect question. For instance, do you understand what indirect discourse is and what direct discourse is? Direct discourse is something that I'm stating myself. Indirect discourse is something that I would state that you said. Okay? Now then, in this particular case here, the direct question in verse 6 is, who is the man? That's the direct question. But, you see, another is stating what you know. You know who is the man. And so, it is an indirect question. Who is the man? As you ask, see. You know who the man is. Now, in paragraph 283, the neuter accusative is frequently used adverbally in the sense of why. Instead of being what, te sometimes is why. Why do you call me good? Why do you call me? Or why do you say me to be good? Why do you call me good? Number 284. The indirect question. In indirect questions, the same mode and tense is generally found as in the direct, and the same interrogative words. He saw where you are staying. He saw. Now then, immediately that's in the past, isn't it? He saw. And we would want to say where you were staying. He saw where you were staying. But it's indirect. And when you put indirect into the sentence there, you use the same tense as the direct discourse. He saw where you were staying. Present tense, you are staying. Instead of he saw where you were staying. Okay. Same way for the next one. Now, 285. Study carefully the following examples of the use of the indefinite pronoun. Now we've got the indefinite. We've looked at the interrogative. Now the indefinite pronoun. Apentis auto. One, or a certain one, said to him. Okay, tis is in the nominative. Therefore, it becomes the subject of a pen. A certain one says to him. Or a certain one spoke to him. Now, in the next one, he has not translated dead. But notice, well, I better go back up to number 1 for just a moment. Notice, tis does not have an accent, but a pen has 2 accents. Therefore, tis lost its accent to the ultima of the preceding word. See? Which was a word that was accented on the penal, therefore it robs the monosyllable of the accent, the enclitic, and puts it on the ultima. Now then, in paragraph 2, notice that you know you have an indefinite because of the grave accent. See? And it should be stated this way. But some of them said. but some of them, but some out of them, see, spoke, but some, and it's the same way, same thing as saying, but some of them said, or some of them spoke. Now then, in paragraph, number 3, notice how the indefinite pronoun is used as an adjective here. He went into a certain village. He went into a certain village. Now that's accusative because it's acting as the adjective of command. Do you see that? He went into a, not just a village, but he went into a certain village. Okay, certain is adjective, attributive adjective. Number 4, a certain man had 2 sons. Again, the monosyllabic pronoun lost its accent to the ultima of the preceding word, anthropos. Now he just pointed, he's just calling your attention to the fact of the function of tis. Note that the indefinite tis is used as a substantive in 1 or 2, and as an adjective in 3 and 4. Those pronouns can do that, can't they? All right, now I want you to do the exercises 285, and I want you to be responsible for the vocabulary of lesson 35 for our next lesson. And again, we have in this particular lesson some more eos verbs, but they are masculine. Yeah, we've had a lot of fun with some first declension nouns, which are both feminine and masculine. Now, all of the nouns that we noticed in the other vocabulary were feminine, eos. All right, now, here are some nouns that are masculine that are eos, and then he gives you some neuter nouns of the third declension that are not eos, but are us, okay, in the genitive. We'll deal with that next time. All right, now then, I want to know, as far as the exercises that we had for today, I want to know how you got along. Let's put some on the board here, so that we can. Let's just put 1 or 2 on the board here. Let's put number 2 on the board, and then I want to see how you can get along with it. Andra, u, genos, genosko. Okay? Now then, come on up, Wes. And let's see how you can handle that particular word. Now, when you come to a sentence, the first thing you do is to hunt for your subject. Hunt for a subject. Hunt for a noun that's going to be in the nominative, or hunt for your subject that may not be in the nominative. Okay, now what have you got in this particular sentence here?
We have our verb that's acting as a verb in the subject. And
How do you know that? Do you have a noun in that sentence?
there's no nominatives.
But you do have a noun, don't you?
Yes.
Well, what case is that noun in?
Accusative.
Therefore, what is that noun?
It's the the object?
Yeah, what is the noun that's in the accusative though in that particular sentence?
Andra.
Andra. Andra. Now andra is in the accusative. Now you know it can't be the subject then because it's in the accusative case, isn't that right? All right, therefore you look at the verb, which is what?
Gnosko.
Gnosko. All right, now then, what is the subject of gnosko then?
Oh, the subject of gnosko is I,
All right, where do you find that?
and the personal ending.
The personal ending. Okay, now then. All right, now then, write in English, in the way we would say it, write that out in English underneath that particular sentence there.
The way we would say it.
Yeah, the way we'd say it.
I'll print.
Okay, now stand back to the side there just a little bit. Now I want you to explain the whole thing to me. All right? Now, what tense is gnosko?
It's the present.
Present, active, indicative of, well, it's given you. That's the verb right there.
Of gnosko.
Okay. I know. Now, what is the oo there?
Who is not?
Oo is the negative, isn't it? I know not. Therefore, what's the object of I know?
Andra.
Andra. Okay. I know man, don't I? And since you've got the negative there, is I know not a man. You don't have any article there, do you? To point out the man. Even though man is definite by virtue of being the object, you wouldn't put in the, because it is what? What do you call it? Have we noticed?
Without an article, I don't.
Have we up to this time pointed out what a noun is without an article?
I can't remember. We may have, but
Called anarthrous. Anarthrous.
Anarthrous.
And many times in this particular instance here, why it is proper to translate it that way, isn't it? I know not a man. Or we could say it, I do not know a man. See? I do not know. Because you're making at present, isn't that right? I do not know. Now we've gotten so used to our English Bible, where Mary says, "How can this be? I know not a man." That we just made this part and parcel of our thinking. But if I were to have a sentence totally unrelated to biblical truth, why we would just simply state it, I do not know a man. See? And if the article was in front of that, I do not know the man. See the difference?
Oh yeah.
All right, fine and dandy. All right, that's good. Now let's put another one up here, just for practice purposes, and see if we can get another illustration that he has given us in our exercises. All right, let's do the first one there then. Entele. Hey entele estin. Halagos. Han akuete. All right, Dwayne, come on up and I want you to do this one for me. See how we can get along by virtue of knowing this. Now then, first of all, do you have in that particular exercise there any nomities?
And hey and tale and halagos.
Okay, now then, what's the subject of that verb? What's the subject of that sentence?
Hey and tale.
It's the first one, and then it's predicate nominative with hologos.
Well, S10 is, parse for me S10.
It's a third person singular present indicative of Amy.
All right?
It is.
It. Okay, now what case is hologos?
It's the nominative.
Nominative, and again, why is it nominative?
It's a predicate nominative because of Amy.
All right, always remember that Amy and many times ginomai can take a predicate nominative. What gender is he and tole?
Feminine,
What gender is hologos?
masculine.
All right, now then, just so that some might help some, a predicate nominative then does not have to agree in gender with the subject of the sentence, and does it? No. All right. Now then, what do you have down here below? What is Han?
It's a relative pronoun, accusative.
Okay, how's it functioning?
It's the direct object of the verb you here.
You here. Okay, what gender is it?
It's the accusative, or the gender, the masculine,
What's it? Why does it have to be?
or
Why does it have to be masculine then?
because it's the case is masculine, but it's also agreeing with well, it's the masculine's here. The
Okay.
gender is in the hologos.
All right, now then, you haven't got the words down just yet. What's the antecedent of Han then?
Hologos.
All right, the antecedent of hologos, the antecedent of Han is hologos. It's masculine, therefore Han has to be masculine in gender, doesn't it? Because the antecedent. He entole is not the antecedent, is it?
No.
No. It's hologos is the antecedent of Han. All right, now then, is there any attraction at all to hologos?
No.
No. It is accusative because it's the object of the verb. Now then, what's the subject of that verb? Akuate.
Ete, you, plural, second person plural.
All right, it does not have then a noun that it refers to in the sentence which acts as a subject. Therefore, your subject's in the verb, right? Okay, now then parse for me that verb.
It's second person plural, present indicative active of akuo, I hear.
All right, now then, write the translation out as far as that sentence is concerned.
Um, I would say
All right, fine and dandy, that's good. The commandment is the word which you hear. Now the you there is plural, right?
Yeah.
Because our English, okay, you may be seated. Because our English, we make no distinction between you and you, except just in the context of our speaking or in the context of our writing. Now then, again, I think you need to keep in mind agreement with reference to verbs and the subjects expressed. And always remember that as far as estin is concerned, or genomai, if you have another word that's in the nominative, that's always called predicate nominative. Predicate nominative. Always remember that. Now in this particular case here, you don't have the subject expressed. The only thing you have your subject inherent in your verb. So, which, here's your relative, you, here, and this would be the object, wouldn't it? It takes its gender from its antecedent, it takes its case from its function in its own clause. Any question? All right, I believe I believe you're coming along then a bit there. We'll continue to do some of this as we work on the various exercises, okay? On page 117, lesson number 35, we have the continuation of a declension, the third declension, stems ending in epsilon upsilon and epsilon sigma. Again, the same old tune and the same old song. Learn your declensions. Memorize your declensions. In this particular case, he gives you some pretty good observations to observe when it comes to the matter of the third declension with reference to the word king, basileus. Now, note, if you will, the little footnote. He is just simply introducing you to that little sort of F in brackets. He gives you the footnote down there. This is called a vowel, called also the gamma, an old letter standing in the alphabet after epsilon and pronounced like the omega. Its presence as a semivowel is often shown by upsilon. Now really, I have never run across this as far as the study of the Greek New Testament. So that is just by way of information should you go on to different types of study concerning the Greek and come up against something that looks like a little F. Well, you know someplace back in the archives of your thinking that you were at least exposed to it. All right, now then, in your explanations, the final vowel of the stem is dropped when it would come between two vowels. It is retained when final vocative or followed by a consonant. Now, notice what you have there by way of your, in your nominative and your vocative, and then your locative, instrumental, and dative plural. And that is what he's asked you to note concerning the upsilon, how it is dropped in the other particular cases. Now, you can read that. You've gotten far enough along, as far as your Greek is concerned, to note that when he talks about observation, okay, observe it, okay? And batten it down in your thinking. So we really don't have to constantly read all of this information unless that you come across what I want you to do, however, that when you do read this and you do work on your declension, should you have a problem, well then bring it to me and we will sort the thing out or discuss it and to see what we can do by way of solving any difficulty that you may have when it comes to the matter of declension. I will say this, that I think probably the greatest difficulty that you're going to have is not in understanding the observations. The greatest difficulty you're going to have is memorizing it and fitting the explanation into memory. When it does come to memory, try to add to rote memory reason. Would you do that? why is it this way? Now I learned basileus, basileos, basile, basilea, basilou. All right, now I learned that. Now then, by the observations, can I learn anything out of the observations which will add reason to the memory of this particular ending? So some of us can just memorize right off the bat. Some do not find it at all difficult to memorize. I'm not sure whether I gave you this illustration or not, but there are people who have a particular type of mind that once they hear the name or once they hear an address, anything like that, it's there. For instance, down in the city that we used to live, we had a young lady, married a fine young man, and they went to a Bible school. And she was sharp. I want to tell you, she was a really sharp girl. And I found out the reason for it when they came home for Christmas or the end of the year, such a matter as that. When they went to this particular Bible school, there were about, say 120, 130 kids in the first year class. That's quite a bunch of kids. Well, they went to rather a large Bible school. And the teacher stood before the class and said, now, this is what I want every one of you to do. We're going to go right down, one right after the other, because with this large of a class, we got to get through this. I want you to give me your name and address. Name and where you come from. Do that. Just your name and where you came from. And he went down that whole class. Then he asked the question, is there anyone here now who can tell me the names and the address of each one of these students? And this young lady held up her hand. And he said, all right, stand up. Go down the line here. Man, she went right down every row. Didn't miss a lick. And he said, I've only seen that done by a professional. By a professional. Okay, now what did she have? She had what you call a photogenic mind. And once she saw something or heard something, it was there. Now, they came home. She wasn't able to go back because they were expecting a little one. And she was Rh negative, so she wanted to stay with her doctor. So he came to our school then, and she took part-time classes. And I taught her, along with others, first year Greek. And when it came to the end of the first semester, or was it the end of the year? I forget. Anyway, it was a final exam. And it was quite an exam. That girl didn't miss one spelling, didn't miss one accent, didn't miss one iota subscript, didn't miss one breathing mark. Perfect paper. Absolutely perfect paper. Now, that's quite an asset, isn't it? But you know it can be a detriment. Because unless we can reason it, we really haven't got it. And in time, that'll slip. Now, most of us are not blessed with that kind of a mind. So we have to labor. And study. Go over and go over and go over. So that's what I'm suggesting for you to do. And you will observe that in your vocabulary, he has given you 2 different kinds of words. He's given you the noun os and he's given you the noun us, hasn't he? All right, he gives you then the declension of those two kind of words on page 288 and, paragraph 288 and paragraph 290. All right? Now that's all he's doing as far as this lesson is concerned. But I want you to have done all of the exercises. Paragraph number 292. Now then, let's go back to the exercises of page 286. Now get your papers out as far as your exercises. Did you get all of your exercise done? You didn't get yours done? Move to a new house. All right. You got exercised, all right, but you didn't get the Greek exercise, did you? All right, now, did you fellas have any particular problem with reference to the exercises on page 117, paragraph 286? Do you have any? Yes.
Dr. Clark, it was just in the order of when they asked the question.
Yes.
Let me get an example here. It'd be, okay, like number one, from the English to the Greek.
Mm-hmm.
And what shall we say? Is that the same?
Where do you find that?
The Greek to the English to the Greek.
What shall
We
we
say.
say? Okay.
Is that is it saying the same thing as you when you're saying what we shall say? Like if I used
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
and you just change it around.
All right. Now you want to put. Why don't you take what you've got on your paper there and put it on the blackboard for us, so that we can and write it big enough so it'll come out on the video. Would you please? So that I'll move this over a bit.
Just the Greek.
Yeah, just the Greek. All right, now stay right there. Now then, can you see there? All right. Now, what is te?
Interrogative pronoun.
All right, now that's your interrogative. Now, why do you have the acute accent on te instead of grave?
Because if it was a grave, it would people get confused with the next pronoun.
Right, you're on the right track. Just forgotten the name. Indefinite pronoun.
Indefinite pronoun.
Okay, now then, this is the interrogative. Always has the acute. All right? If it were grave, right, you would be mixed up with reference to the indefinite pronoun. Now then, you see the English says, what shall we say? Now that's the exercise to do. This is the word what. Now, shall we say? Now explain leg somen to me.
Like someone?
Yes.
Okay, it's first person plural, future indicative active of lego. I say.
All right, exactly right. So, you've got the verb, haven't you? The meaning of the verb, lego, I say. You've got the subject of the verb in your personal pronoun, in your personal endings. First person plural. What? Shall we say? Shall we say is all in that one word. And he has given you, now the Greek, by way of a question mark, that's the sign of the question mark as far as Greek is concerned. Remember that? Now, I don't know whether we've emphasized that or not, but you'll notice in exercise number 1 from the Greek to the English, you see it looks like a semicolon to us, right? So that's the sign of the question mark when it comes to the matter of our Greek. So here's your interrogative. What shall we say?
And it's okay to mix it like that.
Oh yes. What shall we say? That really isn't any mixing.
Yeah. Because I'm used to, if I saw that, I would always, like, without knowing, say the interrogative,
Uh-huh.
I would put we shall say.
We shall say. Now, how would you translate that then? We shall say what? That's
then
what you do, huh?
Yeah.
We shall say what?
we shall say, well, without knowing this, if I just saw that word in the sentence without knowing the context,
Yes.
I put we shall say,
You'd be right.
right? But it's the same though as shall we say, if you later on in the context.
Right. Now then, I see what you're driving at. Let's just erase that. Suppose that's all you have by way of a Greek sentence. How would you translate it? How would you translate it?
Just that?
Yeah.
I shall say.
No?
Or we shall say, I should say. Or we will. Yeah.
How would you translate it?
We shall say. Or speak.
How would you translate it?
We shall say.
No.
Well, if you got the semicolon
Yeah,
instead
right,
of the
you see,
question, I would say what?
Oh, I didn't.
Yes, it-
Well, I didn't see a sit there.
No, you don't have the interrogative, do you? But that says it's a question. So you would translate it, shall we say? If that's what you have. Now then, when you put your interrogative to there, it's what shall we say? Understand that? Because if you do not have the interrogative, but you have that sign of the interrogative, sign of the question, at the end of that, well then you know he's wanting you to translate that as a question. Okay? And so you would translate it, shall we say? Or shall we be more accurately stated in our vernacular, shall we speak? Or it would be all right to say, what shall we say? That would be all right there too. Because he's asking a question, what shall we say? Even though the interrogative isn't there. All right, fine and dandy. All right. Now, any other question? Have any other question as far as your exercise is concerned? Because we want to really put this Greek to work, whereby we can understand it, and for the sake of the video too, to help any who may later on desire to look at it by video, because I'm just a little afraid that we haven't given enough explanation by way of exercises, whereby those that do take it by video would have the help that's necessary. Because sometimes after our classes, well, we can get together in our sessions, bull sessions, and thrash these things out, can't we? All right, now let's put one on. Let's put one on the board. For instance, we're going to put number 5 on the board. All right. A domin, and that's followed by an enclitic. That loses its accent. Yeah, we'll go down another line here. Toe, onomatopoeia, followed by another enclitic. Ekbalanta. Daimonia. Now then, Dwayne, why don't you go to the board and do some explaining for us?
Some explaining?
Yes, I want you to translate that, and I want you to explain what you are doing and why you're translating it as you are. All right? Now, what are you going to look at first of all, as far as that sentence is concerned?
I'll look for my subject of the sentence, which will be found in the verb.
It is found in the verb because there isn't anything else by way of a nominative there, is it? Okay? So you've found your subject and you've found your verb, and it's a dominant, right?
Yeah, We saw.
Okay, we saw. All right, now then, write that down, we saw. All right, now then, what's the next thing you're going to look for in trying to translate that sentence? What are you going to look for? After you found your subject and the verb, what do you immediately
The
then look for?
object.
You try to find the object. Now then, the object will be in what case?
The accusative.
Accusative case. Now then, as we look at that particular sentence, do we find any words up there in the accusative?
Tina is accusative plural.
All right. And now then, what is the meaning for tina?
Certain ones.
Because it's what part of speech?
It's indefinite pronoun.
It's an indefinite pronoun. Okay. We saw. Now then, I know I've got my object. I know I've got my object, and I know I've got my meaning, certain ones. Okay, put it down. And it's plural, isn't it? Certain ones. We saw certain ones. All right, now then, as I look at the rest of that sentence, I've got my basic sentence, but then I know that I've got some more words to fool with. And so I start looking at them and see how they're going to fit into my sentence. So the next thing that I see by way of just following through is epsilon nu, which is what part of speech?
It's a prepositional phrase.
Prepositional phrase. Well, it's a preposition, but it introduces a prepositional phrase. And what's the meaning for in?
For in.
Yeah, all right. Epsilon nu, and is in, all right? Just put that down and see where we're going to go. Now then, what's the next word I've got?
To onomati.
Okay, what case is to onomati in?
It's in the locative
Why?
because the preposition in demands it.
Okay, epsilon nu demands the case locative, and that is for our particular practical understanding at this point. Actually, to onomati calls epsilon nu in to help it. But we just simply say epsilon nu in the locative is going to take the locative case. Now then, what's the meaning for to onomati?
The name.
The name, okay? Now then, what have I got with Sue here?
It's a genitive. Second person pronoun.
Second person, singular, what kind of pronoun? Personal pronoun.
Yeah, personal pronoun.
Personal pronoun. And it's in what case?
The genitive.
Okay, how would you translate that then?
I would, well, just by itself, I would say of you.
All right, put that down. Now then, what have I got down here?
We've got a participle and a verb.
Huh?
A participle.
A participle. Could you parse that participle for me now?
It's masculine, accusative, masculine, singular, present active participle of ekbalo, I cast out.
All right. Now it's accusative. Why is it accusative?
Well, it's the object, the direct object of.
Not quite.
Well, the case demands it.
You mean the form
The
demands
form,
it. The form demands. Well, that's good. Yeah, that's right. The form demands it because that's what the form is. But why is it that form? Why is it the accusative form?
Because it's the direct object of.
No, it's not the direct object of that. But what does it modify? What does it relate to, in other words? What does
Oh,
it?
to daimonia.
No, it doesn't. What does it relate to? Well, it relates back up to Tina, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We sure.
No, that's what I said. It's the direct object of Tina.
No, it's not the direct object. You see, Tina is a pronoun. Pronouns don't take direct objects.
Oh, okay.
Only verbs and participles and infinitives and so forth can take direct objects, eh? So we saw certain ones. Well, ekbalanta modifies certain ones. It refers to the certain ones. And the dead giveaway for that is the case. See? Both of them are same case, isn't that right? We saw certain ones, and then we saw what? Casting out. We saw certain ones casting out. And so we've given now the definition for that participle. So put down there the meaning. Now then, what case is daimonia?
It's accusative plural
How can you tell?
with the ending. It's which is the accusative plural, and it agrees with this. Ekbalanta.
No, he doesn't.
No?
No, it doesn't. Why is daimonia accusative? Stay in there.
Oh, it's the direct object.
All right.
Ekbalo,
It's the direct object of the participle, isn't it? Do you see that?
You bet.
Do you see that? Okay, put it down.
Question?
Demons. All right. We saw certain ones in the name of you casting out demons. Now, how would we really write that instead of just doing that in that way? We saw certain ones.
Certain ones casting out demons in your name.
That's right. That's right. That's saying the same, isn't it? That's the way we would translate it to make it smooth English. But the Greeks say, we saw certain ones in the name of you casting out demons. Right? All right, everyone happy? Now then, just a minute, hold the phone here. Again, tell me why you've got two accents on a dominant up there.
Because this is an indefinite pronoun and it's an enclitic.
Enclitic?
And it can throw its accent to the, if it falls in the antepenult, it throws its accent, it pulls the accent off of tina, the preceding word.
Well, now you're batting around, all right.
Antecedent.
You're going all the way around the bush.
Words on it. The antecedent has the accent on the antepenult, then the indefinite pulls it over, or loses it, and it goes over to the ultimate.
All right, that's just pretty good now. All right, now tell me why in the world you've got two accents on onomati.
Because su is an enclitic too, also.
All right. Same function, isn't it? All right, well that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Now then, question.
No, I'm all right. I've
You've already got that question?
jotted her down.
You've already got it now, eh? All right. Now then, does that help you? Are you seeing how to unwind a sentence now? And watch the cases, because that case there gets its case because of its modifier up there. We saw certain ones casting out demons. All right. All right. Now then, that's what I want you to continue to do by virtue of all of your lessons now, and we will have the exercises on page 119 for tomorrow, both the Greek and the English. All right, we'll call it quits for that.